It's a pleasure to be here. Shale gas is a great revolution, and followed by a second revolution, which is shale oil. These are fundamental globally and have many implications. I'll give you an update of what is happening right now in North America and the US mostly, and what the implications globally. Introduce you for one slide about Tamboran Resources, my company, overview on shale and the revolution, and can it be replicated elsewhere? That's, I think, the question that many people try to address, and we'll address that as well. And what are the geopolitical and economic implications of this revolution? Followed by a summary. Tamboran is a global shale gas E&P company. We don't have any production, but we have lots of land. We have great acreage in Australia in 4 basins, and we have also 400,000 acres in the UK, in northern, in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. And we are on the process of planning to core in the first quarter, our first shale core there. We have a joint venture in Beetaloo, based in Australia, with Santos for $80 million, and we've just finished, they are the operator now, we just finished shooting 450 kilometers of seismic, and we're planning to drill and core 3 wells next year, with a plan of fracking at least one of those wells. This is the shale gas percentage of the total gas production in the US, 41%. In 2005, it was 3%. This is staggering, to say the least, when we consider the volumes. That equates to 29 BCF a day. That is over 2 times the total Canadian production, around 6.6 times the total Australian production from onshore and offshore, and around 5.6 times from Qatar production, which is the largest LNG producer. And it all happened in a short period of time. The acceleration is remarkable, especially in the Marcellus and Haynesville. Barnett is the mature one, but the Eagle Ford, with all dry gas, condensate, and oil, shale oil, is marching. Just the Haynesville and Marcellus alone, they have 15 BCF a day. And there is a graph as well showing you the line with the wellhead price. We had cyclical issues. We used to have prices go between 10 and 14, sometimes spot market $15 an MCF. Now they are around 3.5. On the futures as well, they don't go more than that. And that prompted a lot of the chemical industry to quit many regions, Dow Chemicals and others from Europe and elsewhere, to go and set shop in the US because the feedstock is very cheap. Shale oil, the US right now, last month, was the largest oil producer in the world, 12 million barrels a day. Of that, it surpassed Saudi Arabia and Russia. And around, you see this in the graph, around 2.35 million barrels a day from unconventional shale gas and shale oil, out of almost nothing in 2008 and 9. In terms of the acceleration is after 2010. Most of the 80% of this production is coming from Eagle Ford and the Bakken. And it's accelerating and continuing the production. It just, the US now importing 40% of its needs from oil compared to 60% just a few years ago. And they consume 25.5 TCF a year, and they produce 24 TCF a year. So within just a few years, they will be not only self-sufficient in terms of gas, will be exporters, and within 10 to 15 years, they will be also self-sufficient in oil. This is a a huge boost for the security of supply of the U.S., and that's prompted the geopolitical implications of these resources. As an example, the Bakken in Eagle Ford, the Bakken was number 149 on the largest petroleum systems in the world in 2005. And Eagle Ford was not even there. Right now, it's number 3 or 4, and Eagle Ford is following suit. It's going to be like huge. And 5 of the largest shale gas fields or regions in the world are from shale gas right now. And you will see this. The Marcellus, it is so huge, it covers 3 states. And this is without even adding in New York, because there is a ban on exploiting shale gas in New York. But if that opens up, you can see these numbers. The technically recoverable reserves will jump a great deal more than the 500 TCF equivalent. So, and this map this graph will change with time. There will be more addition to shale gas. This is a revolution. It's going to impact globally, but particularly North America. We cannot live without fossil fuel. We need the energy, and there is anybody who wants to have something else, they have to explain how we can get the 80% predicted by ExxonMobil and others by 2040. We are still in need of 80% fossil fuel. And the 20% are nuclear, hydro, and other sources. We need fossil fuel whether we like it or not. And fossil fuels, the discovery of coal saved the forest. Primary fuel was wood, which is still used in many regions in the world. And coal replaced wood. And then oil was discovered over 100 years ago, and that saved the whales from extinction. And now the only feasible fuel to replace some, at least, of the functions of oil is really natural gas. Not all shales are created equal, and that's very important. North America, and I mean the US and Canada, they're blessed by amazing shales. They are all have different properties, but essentially they are seals. They are not reservoirs, they are source rocks and seals. They are nanodarcy rocks, and thus they need to be stimulated in similar fashion. The importance of geochemistry cannot be overstated, either organic or inorganic. This is an SEM micrographs of both from Barnett and Haynesville. And you can see we're really talking about small pores between, that's where the hydrocarbons reside, whether it's oil or gas. Talking about 5 microns or less. That translates basically to 200, 300, 400, 500 nanodarcy. At these levels of permeability, Darcy flow does not apply. It's fixed flow, it's diffusion. That's why we need to fracture these rocks. A stimulated rock volume has to be high to enable these hydrocarbons to diffuse of these rocks into the created fractures, and that will be Darcy flow to the wellbore. So understanding the fundamentals and various scales of these types of plays is very paramount, and especially at the beginning. We cannot really go without also looking at geochemistry. That's very important. What types of corrosion, the fundamentals, what types of corrosion we have. They're not all created equal. And these are ends, members, but also they can be mixtures. Take, for example, type 1. Type 1 is very rich in hydrogen to carbon ratio, like what we find in lakes, as well as Precambrian rocks. A lot of our properties in Australia are from Precambrian, where the only life present at the time was algal mats and stromatolites. These are fantastic sources of oil and gas because they convert up to 80%. They are able to convert because they are rich in hydrogen to carbon. Well, type 2, the marine environment's maximum can go 50%, and type 3, which is mostly coal, really does not produce oil or mostly natural gas, simply because there isn't enough hydrogen in the system, and it converts only around 20%. And the rest is recalcitrant material that non-generative. Understanding these fundamentals of each play early on is very important. These are the permeability scale. We are used in our 100 years or so, looking at the conventional realm. We're used to, the rest of the world is used to here. Perforate, find the oil-water contact, and produce. Now we are going there. These are the values for permeability from great shales, Montney, Barnett. These are less permeable than the sidewalk cement in the front of your house. These are the amazing stuff we are dealing with. And there are challenges, but there are ways of meeting those challenges. We are a very innovative industry. This is in Canada, in the Horn River Basin. It has one of the most amazing shales I ever had the chance to work on, the Moskwa Shale. It is very brittle, very rich, and we can only frack and drill in winter because in summer, muskegs and the equipment will sink. And you'll see probably some pictures floating around where the rigs are just 3/4 they sunk if you are not careful. And we have to frack in winter at -30, -40. You can't frack with ice, you frack with water, so we have to heat the water. These contain big volumes of water, and there are stops on them to keep it from freezing. And we use pads. While drilling here, you can frack here. You can put up to Apache, and in Canada, they are talking about 30, 40 wells in one pad. Not only it's more economic, but also to reduce the footprint. Diagnostics are very important, and I hope the operators in Poland here, they use microseismic. There are no models right now can predict where the fracture is going to be, the geometry of fractures of shale gas. This is one of the wells I drilled with my colleagues at Talisman in Montney Formation. And we had several stages there, but as you can see, and each color is just a different stage. We changed some stuff in terms of the amount of rate in the water and the sand in the last 2 stages. And you can see more activity here, more microseismic events. However, when we looked at the well, there is a lot of gray areas are not touched by the frac. And if you don't stimulate these regions, those regions will not contribute to the well, to the production. So when we calculated the volume of rocks from this, potentially what we could have, we had, and calculating what recoveries we can get, really getting around 10%. That's very poor for this well cost us around $10 to $15 million at the time. Now costs are now going down. Well, that's part of the piloting phase. Well, I'll take you now just a few years. This was 2008. I was able to talk about in 2009. Here's the latest. This is one of the wells in Utica, Shale in Ohio. This well, look at the density of the fracturing. We need to fracture as much as we can to enable the gas to diffuse to the wellbore. The well next to the horizontal well here is the way we put the geophones. So when you frac the stage, geophones will be there. You frac the stage, you pull them next door. So you have the maximum value of the geometry. This well has done IP'd 43 million cubic feet a day. This is the richest I've seen, the highest one I've seen in North America. There was one in Eagleford done by Devon. A few years ago, it was 34 million a day. The recovery, because of the density of the frac, we were able to recover 60% of the gas in place. The highest recorded before that was in Barnett. EOG did a pilot program which recovered 50%. Remember, we started with vertical wells in Barnett. Recovery was 5–6%. This is, I should say, unbelievable. It's fantastic. We can recover the same recoveries, even more than conventional. So imagine the resource potential. And the continuous improvement. You probably have seen this slide, and I really like it a lot. You keep the cost down. This is from Fayetteville Shale. But the lateral length increased from, this is a big pilot, from 2007 to the first quarter in 2011. So the cost, they're drilling complete over $3 million. This is cheap, relatively shallow wells. The laterals was, at the beginning, it was 1,200. They were very afraid of going the longer laterals. And then they increased it to, from 2,000 to 4,000 feet. And then the IPs increased dramatically as well. Some of the IPs at the end here were restricted because of the capacity pipeline. But there is something we cannot do in conventional. Whatever nature gave you, conventional, you have to deal with. Here, if we are able to fracture more, understand the rocks more, place the wells where they're supposed to, we can recover more. This is the beauty of unconventional. And here the decline rates for various, this is the Barnett Shale. Of course, we're dealing with the gas one. There's big samples of this. This is the gas rates. But look at the rates. We're talking about a methane molecule. It's a smaller molecule. However, when you're getting larger molecules, the viscosity increases. The Velcro on the molecules themselves also increase. It will be very hard or harder to get them out of these rocks. This is in Barnett oil. And this is Eagle Ford, the solution gas, very important. That's a driver mechanism for that. The Bakken oil has been known for years and years and years. People were drilling verticals, just acidizing the formation. Now they're drilling laterals of 2,000, 3,000 meters, like 9,000 feet. Some of the wells in Marcellus now over 9,000 feet in length. These are, can you imagine, 9,000 feet plus another 2,000 feet of vertical and add the bell shape, and this is you have to case the whole thing, just conveying the casing to these lengths. This is not a trivial challenges, but our industry is very innovative and we are able to do it. I was recently in Arabia giving a keynote speech in Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia, Saudi Aramco is very serious about shale gas right now. They need the gas. And they are having a big program to explore for it, as well as Kuwait. Where is the best place to look for shale gas? Well, where is already a petroleum system? If you have a conventional production, guaranteed, you got it easy. You just go where the conventional production is. But for size, I try to put those in the Montney. It's a huge, huge strategic reserves from gas and shale oil and condensate in Canada. Marcellus, it's massive. And Eagle Ford and Hayesville and Barnett, just comparing the size, and there is like tens of thousands of potential drills that companies are already having in their books. So I tried to show, and this is how much we gas in place. And if you're talking about 16 quadrillion cubic feet. So a lot of potential, a lot of gas coming for many years to come. And the Saudis, Saudi Aramco, are paying attention because shale oil and shale gas might erode their strategic advantage. Water is safe. And this is the responsibility of all of us. Groundwater is safe. We all want clean water. It is safe, and also it's a responsibility, not only us, also media, to report on facts and not only sensationalism. We are the vertical section of a shale well is exactly the same as a conventional well. Nothing has changed from 100 years. Well, we improved a great deal. We're having 3 layers of casing and cement. We are all doing it to protect the groundwater, which is very valuable for us, and not a single case proven that we have fractures went into groundwater. We are fracking way deep in the shale, and there is a very interesting paper by Fisher and Warpensky, an SPE paper, and they looked at the groundwater levels from various plays, including Marcellus and Barnett and Eagle Ford and so forth. So what you see here is where the Marcellus has been stimulated, fractured, from at the shallower end, 5,000 feet, and at the deeper end so far is around 8,500 or so feet. The blue is where the frac height been recorded from microseismic and other techniques. And here is the aquifers on those areas. We are far away from where you can never frac into them. It's just ridiculous. We don't have that kind of energy. You need something massive, really, to reaching these heights. We don't have that. So our duty to explain that. I'm proud of our industry, and we will explain it, and we are not ashamed of it. We want to protect our industry, our water resources, and environment. We are committed to that. Everything is in the open, but we have to defend our industry as well against misinformation. Environmentalists and others should be really cheering shale gas. Look what's happening because of the U.S. now switching in power generation from coal, which has a lot of CO2 emission because of the nature of the fuel, to gas. So now the emissions, CO2 emissions reduced to 1994. This is without government interference. This is a free market. People using cheaper fuel, cleaner fuel, and guess what? The emissions went down. Before, if there was not happening, the emissions would have increased up to here. So we're talking about a reduction in CO2, but over 1 billion metric tons so far. That's annually. This is the implications. The U.S. will be a net exporter in 2020 or thereabouts. Depends on many things, but it's going to happen. Now, of course, the U.S. will be careful where and how to export natural gas. There's lots of LNG plants are now being built for export. They were initially built for or licensed for imports. This is how quick things have changed. And there is a lot of need for gas, even with the U.S. not needing the LNG. Asia, Africa, there's a lot of demand, a lot of growth. And look what happened to Japan. They shut down their nuclear industry. So they're replacing that by coal and gas, natural gas. So there is a lot of need for clean energy globally. Look at just the staggering implications or what happened. We know by 2012, total just upstream capex were like $87 billion. Employment, 1.8 million. And value added, $270 billion. And by 2035, you're talking about almost $500 billion of value added, $500 billion rather, of value added, 3.5 million employees, new employment is coming up, and total spending of $353 million. Just the savings on the gas bill alone, 2012, was $153 billion. Just that. There's the gas bill. Geopolitics is very important. The U.S. has been engaged in the Middle East for a long time, and not only for one of the major reasons, of course, is the resources and the security of supply. The Jeffrey Bly, the U.S. ambassador to Australia, he said in public, he's a representative of the American government, he said, shale gas freed us up in order to identify whatever our vital interests are in the Middle East, as opposed to being drawn into aspects that would normally not be of core interest to the United States. This is the biggest development in the energy sector for a long time, and look at the manufacturing as well, ancillary. So the U.S. is reassessing its position in the world because of shale gas and the shale oil revolution that they have actually started it themselves. And it was prompted by the 70s crisis. The ones who are old enough of you, they remember that, when the embargo in the 70s. So the U.S. government put a tax incentive to encourage exploitation and understanding of unconventional resources, whatever they may be, and culminated in where we are right now. So yes, there are unique sets of factors that enable the rapid growth in the U.S., and it could be an exporter. Economic competitive advantage, cheap gas is significant and creating even more jobs in the U.S., which was really, it came in the nick of time because we were in a recession, and it could have been a lot worse. Opportunities do exist for countries like Poland and other places in the world because we have the lessons. We are not in the 80s when George Mitchell was alone fighting his engineers and geologists. When I met him, he told me all what he could hear. George, you're wasting your time. George, you're wasting your money. Right now, we are benefiting, when we go global, we are benefiting from billions and billions of dollars spent in North America, and the expertise that's also there that can be transferable, but with commitment. Shale has surprised everyone, and Jack Welch, who was a CEO, ex-CEO of General Electric, he said he compares the shale gas revolution, shale oil revolution, to the internet equivalent in energy. And it's really responsible for the media and us that the flow of accurate and first-hand information about shale gas and shale oils to be really there. With that, thank you so much.
Because you mentioned that the shale gas is a game changer, and that definitely is in the US, Canada. Do you think that this may also be a game changer for Europe? I'm not saying about the, getting access to cheaper LNG or getting access to US coal that is sort of exported, but I'm thinking about the general shale gas in Europe. Do you think this may be repeated, and is it a repeatable case that what happened in the US?
I really think this is up to the Europeans. You will have the answer to that. That's above ground, and also it depends on the geology, which is underground. These both have to work in harmony. So we're just in early stages here and exploring and doing the right things. I think governments and people should be knowing where they want to go and be aligned in one goal, as well as studying the underground. This is very important. And the sooner we get more information about the quality of the resources we have, the easier it will be. When people start seeing the benefits of create a new industry, I think they will come on board. But right now, it's probably early to answer these two questions. I suggest governments and local councils and so forth try to simplify it, simplify the regulations, don't complicate it. And time will tell. The next few years are really critical.
I saw on your map the Tamboran is present in a number of jurisdictions, and there is only one in Europe, is in Ireland. You're not present in Poland. Is any interest for you in Poland, or not really?
I am interested in Poland. That's why I'm here. But
Polish shale, rather.
Shale. Well, you see, we have internally, we have certain criteria where we go because we are a global company and every country and every region in the world has its own challenges. So we sit down together, and that's mostly, I guess, my responsibility and the CEO and the chairman, and of course, technical team. And before we go to areas, we need to be satisfied that it's going to create value for us, and it really starts mainly with the rocks. And so far, to be honest with you, I did not see a lot of the data in Poland is not public yet, but what I have seen so far, and I wish more companies disclose their test results because that's really critical. So we will see once there is success, and it's not going to happen just like it's not easy. You have to work hard at it. Once that happens, we will see. We'll talk to our investors and we'll look around to the good companies and we'll have a dialogue.
Okay, thank you. I open the floor for from audience. Are there any questions? Is someone back there?
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question about one of the last bullets you presented at the end, about the USA having less appetite to get involved into foreign affairs. My question is, do you think that this shale oil revolution could mean that the Middle East in particular could be more unstable and therefore the whole energy market could be affected? Thank you very much.
Could you please repeat the question?
Yes.
What?
The question is, if the US is less willing to get involved into foreign affairs, could the Middle East be less stable politically?
I understand from where the US gets self-sufficiency, would they leave the Middle East, you mean? Is that your question?
Yes.
Sorry, that's what I understood
there
what you
is
said.
a risk of instability because of the US shale in the Middle East.
I believe the Middle East will always be of strategic importance to the great powers at the time, and now it's the U.S. I don't ever imagine the U.S. leaving the Middle East, no matter what. They will be always there, but I think, and this is from no brief from my company, so please, this is my own personal thing, being from the Middle East myself. I think the U.S. will be always there, but we will not see, I don't think we will see a repetition of an anxiety of what happened in for example, the 90s, the involvement of the U.S. Anxiety was security of supply. Right now, we see a more relaxed approach, not to rush like what happened to Syria. And this is what the U.S. ambassador to Australia said, one of the reasons did not rush to Syria and accepted a kind of a settlement is because they're not so anxious about security of supply in the region. So yes, I think it will be always there, but it will be more measured in its responses. That's personally what I believe.